This is my child. Nobody else should be the one to hurt her or take her from me. It's been pure hell. It's been pure hell. I'm a mother, that's my child. I feel like my heart has been ripped out, okay? I don't know what's going on. I feel like the police should be doing much, much more. And I just don't understand how somebody would take somebody's child. Who gives them the right? My son found her cell phone in a sewer, okay? He had to call the police station. They had to come out. They couldn't get it open. The next day, they had to come out with somebody to open it. The police didn't find her. The police did.
Pearl Garner describes her child's violation as an unrelenting, living hell. The mother feels her heart was stolen, leaving only shock and confusion. She views police apathy as negligent. Such a disappearance is incomprehensible. Her son recovered the victim's phone from a drain, alerting authorities. Officers struggled to access the device, requiring specialized help later. Investigators failed to locate her. The family made the discovery instead. Relatives found her on December 18, 2021, after a date. Her remains were found in a marsh, bearing 217 wounds. Merely counting to 217 is a grueling physical task. Committing such violence is unthinkable. Her mother lacks adequate words. 217 stabs. The body was unrecognizable, necessitating a closed casket for her burial. She retreats to her porch nightly, weeping in total, hollow solitude. When Sherelle was murdered, a part of her mother perished too. Please like and subscribe for more deep dives. Happy birthday, Millie. Warmest birthday wishes to Millie. Happy birthday. Sherelle was born in 1981, eventually residing in Woburn, Massachusetts. Friends recall a formidable woman, defined by her self-reliance and ambition. Known as Ray, she shared an unbreakable bond with son Jamani. Sherelle and her mother, Pearl, were exceptionally close and devoted. She loved photography and travel, cherishing time with her large family. Her social circle was vast, anchored in a vibrant local community. She was buying a home, planning a bright future in 2021. Her personal life was complicated by a volatile, multi-month relationship. That man was 44-year-old Bruce Mabin of Lynn, Massachusetts. The relationship soured as Bruce became increasingly obsessive and controlling. He tracked her location, sending a constant barrage of messages. His baseless accusations alarmed her family, who urged her to leave. Escaping such a toxic cycle is rarely a straightforward process. Bruce allegedly threatened her with a knife, crossing a final line. Afterward, Sherelle texted a friend, stating she was done with him. Mabin had a prior history of similar, aggressive, and predatory behavior. Sherelle spent her final afternoon with Pearl on December 18th. She left her mother that day wearing a green hooded sweatshirt. That night, she told relatives she was dating Bruce once more. The pair was seen together at a Boston nightclub that evening. They exited the venue together at 1:30 on December 19th. Her subsequent silence was deafening, a total departure from her habits. By dawn, the family's concern shifted into a desperate, frantic certainty. Jamani reported her missing, immediately identifying Mabin as the primary suspect. He urged police to locate Bruce, the last person seen with her. Law enforcement lacked the urgency that the family felt was necessary. 3 different police departments were involved, creating a fractured investigation. Meanwhile, Mabin deceptively shared the missing person flyer on social media. He was the final person seen with her. That fact remains central. Common sense dictates the last witness should lead the search effort. Instead, this man went completely silent, avoiding all communication. That was a major red flag on December 20th, just 2 days after she vanished. Bruce frequently utilized social media to circulate alerts regarding various missing person cases. Because he often shared such posts, the flyer featuring Sherelle's face didn't initially raise any suspicion among his followers. Many assumed it was just routine. Yet, a chilling detail emerged. He never contacted her family. He hadn't reached out to them at all, which strongly suggested a dark involvement. He was the very last individual to see Sherelle alive. The man claiming she arrived home safely never called her relatives to check in or offer any sympathy. A solitary social media post constituted the entirety of his effort to locate her. That day, a local Facebook post warned that Bruce was likely operating a maroon 2014 Toyota Avalon. Her family distributed flyers and personally investigated every potential lead throughout the region. On December 20th, her phone was found in a Lynn, Massachusetts drain, the same city where Bruce resided. This discovery allowed the family to trace the most probable routes between Lynn and the surrounding areas. Back at home, Pearl struggled to maintain her composure. She pleaded with news reporters for any scrap of information regarding her daughter's whereabouts. Her desperate words illustrated the sheer agony of having a loved one vanish into the unknown. On those bitter nights, Pearl agonized over whether her daughter was suffering in the cold. She obsessed over whether Sherelle had enough clothing to survive the winter elements. While friends posted flyers of the 40-year-old, a sense of total emptiness took hold. Her 19-year-old son, Jamani Larion, realized she was missing and successfully tracked her device to Lynn. Her phone was in the sewer. Terror grew as the days passed without any word or sign of life. Eventually, the family began to doubt whether she was even still alive. After demanding answers from Mabon, the family found Sherelle on December 21st in a Saugus marsh near Route 107. While driving along the highway, they spotted a woman's handbag discarded on the side of the road. They stopped immediately. Upon closer look, they saw a figure lying deep within the roadside brush. The family was unprepared for the gruesome crime scene investigators discovered along Route 107. Search parties formed by relatives eventually located the remains within the marshy terrain. They noticed the victim's purse while passing by, then discovered her body in the distance after pulling over. The district attorney has now confirmed the body belongs to the missing woman, Sherelle Pringle. Unspeakable sorrow followed the confirmation that the Saugus remains were indeed those of the missing mother. We interviewed the family just moments before they received the devastating news. Sherelle was described as a brilliant, kind-hearted woman who loved to enjoy life. Her son felt a hollow ache, pleading for the return of his gentle mother. The body was recovered this afternoon from the wetlands off Route 107. Bystanders observed a group huddled over a purse, documenting the discovery on their smartphones. Witnesses urged a nearby employee to notify emergency services about the grim find. The 40-year-old mother vanished after an evening out with a man she was currently dating. Her family now suspects that her companion may be responsible for her violent death. The autopsy revealed she had been stabbed 217 times. A crime of that magnitude is clearly not a spontaneous act. The district attorney later confirmed the victim's identity and stated that a homicide investigation is underway. The Essex district attorney spearheaded the inquiry alongside state investigators and Lynn police. Woburn and Boston units assisted. That night, a Woburn PD update sent grieving relatives racing to the scene. On that highway shoulder, they clung together, hollowed by unspeakable tragedy. Jamani articulated the family's deep-seated skepticism regarding the police effort. Such a profound emotional burden is one no human should bear. Community members launched a fundraiser to mitigate the household's sudden financial crisis. Forensic analysis proved the recovery site was merely a secondary location. Investigators concluded the abduction occurred elsewhere before she reached Rumney Marsh. On December 22, 2021, police intercepted Bruce Mabon. "I'm carrying nothing," he stated immediately. He insisted he was only searching for his vehicle. He attempted to deflect, asserting he had no reason to hide. He denied discarding his phone, focused entirely on his internet notoriety. He seemed oblivious. He mentioned a partner in New York as microphones recorded. The unit confirmed the suspect was successfully detained and secured. He voiced uncertainty regarding his potential for release. He sought legal counsel, baffled that his car was towed without explanation. Authorities acted quickly to remove him from the public thoroughfare. A veteran officer recognized Mabon from a string of prior arrests. Having arrested him before, the officer recognized him instantly. The identification was positive. "Is that truly me?" he asked, feigning total ignorance. Detectives noted his history of driving with a revoked license. He was a habitual offender already documented in the department's files. Officers confirmed his driving privileges were currently terminated. "Unlicensed operation," the officer remarked, citing the violation. They prepared to impound the car while securing the suspect. The radio hummed as they finalized the transport details. Policy required strict adherence to procedures to avoid complications. In the cruiser, Mabon was disturbingly upbeat, displaying zero empathy for Sherelle. His concern was purely narcissistic, focusing on his online reputation. Command directed the officers to transport him to the barracks. He attempted to tamper with the recording setting. He obsessed over whether his phone call remained active. Finding the device dead, the officer prepared for departure. "We will handle the processing at the station." The navigation system guided the cruiser 800 feet toward the barracks. "Is that a mobile device?" the officer questioned. Seizing it, they secured his effects, leaving him to face the impending investigation. He inquired about his girlfriend, never once mentioning the deceased. His priorities were clear: his image, his partner, and his bail. He was reminded that the cruiser's cameras recorded every word. The vehicle turned right, heading toward the station. A distinct sound resonated as the man adjusted himself. He wondered if the cruiser seat had buckled under his weight. Just the chair shifting, he grew defensive, questioning their approach and distancing himself entirely from the investigation. His tone remained dismissive, refusing to engage with any further inquiries. The transport team clarified they were merely facilitators, directing his questions to the precinct detectives. A quiet inquiry followed, though any potential assistance from the officer remained strictly conditional. He mentioned his partner was likely already approaching the scene to meet him. He insisted she would be waiting nearby, just on the periphery of their current location. He requested a call be placed to her, advising her to withdraw immediately. He noted she was currently in South Boston, planning to reach out upon arrival at the station. The request was acknowledged with a sense of finality. The officer inquired if he had her contact information stored within his device. They prepared to log the details, asking for her name to complete the entry. Her name was Linda. The detail was noted without further comment. He questioned if every cruiser was now outfitted with surveillance recording equipment. The officer confirmed that while dashcams were absent, his body camera was documenting the entire interaction. A flicker of paranoia surfaced as he asked why he was being treated as a violent threat. He argued that his behavior was entirely compliant, despite the officer's aggressive and cautious movements. He emphasized his submission, stating he had no intention of resisting or fleeing. The officer acknowledged his demeanor while questioning his destination. The suspect felt the heat of the pursuit. He admitted to feeling exposed, claiming his reputation in the city made him an easy target for gossip. He inquired if the interrogators had already assembled at the destination. The transport unit was unsure of the timeline, as the handoff had been hurried and uncoordinated. He conceded that the detectives likely hadn't arrived at the precinct yet. They wouldn't be that efficient without aerial support. Meanwhile, procedural recording remained mandatory. His attention turned to his confiscated effects, specifically his personal belongings. The officer assured him that his property was being inventoried and logged into the system. He voiced concern over his phone, claiming he had never granted permission for its search. The device was not in the immediate vicinity, suggesting it was still with the arresting officers. No mention of the phone had been made, leaving its whereabouts a mystery as they departed. The officer speculated the device might be at the Lynn station, mentioning another investigator's presence. A detective from a specialized unit had been part of the initial arrest team. He suspected that individual was the one currently in possession of his mobile device. The tone shifted as the officer prepared to read the mandatory Miranda warning for the booking process. He was formally advised of his constitutional protections before any interrogation could proceed. He was told of his right to remain silent and the legal consequences of any future statements. His right to legal representation before and during any questioning was clearly articulated. He was informed that an attorney would be provided by the state if he could not afford one. He was reminded of his right to stop the interview at any point, regardless of his initial choice. Having been informed of his rights, he was asked if he was still willing to speak during the booking. The officer asked for his dominant hand, requesting a signature on the official documentation. The neatness of the signature was of no concern to the authorities. The officer offered a brief acknowledgement for his cooperation. A small disruption occurred within the sterile environment of the room. The process concluded as the investigation moved into its next phase. The procedure was finished. The officer logged that the caller was identified as the suspect's girlfriend. The investigator noted the relationship and moved forward. He denied taking any medications when questioned. The suicide risk assessment began with standard questions about drug use. He denied substance use and any history of psychiatric treatment. He maintained he had never previously attempted to end his life. The officer asked if he was currently harboring self-destructive thoughts. He gave a final, negative response to the inquiry. A chilling realization surfaced as he mentioned rumors of his own death. He described an online photo depicting him inside a cemetery. The officer acknowledged the bizarre claim with cold detachment. They began processing the prints of his left hand. The liquid used for the scanning process was simple water. He was instructed to follow the positions in the diagram. The focus then shifted toward obtaining prints from his right hand. Technical glitches often required several attempts to clear the system. Eventually, the software would be forced to accept the data. He was guided to press his palm edge against the glass. The system failed to find an initial match in the database. They prepared to try one last time. The scanner flickered as they attempted to finalize the intake. Surprisingly, no matching records were found for the man in custody. He clarified that Sarah was the only other person present. The file was saved under United States jurisdiction. He was directed to wait while they arranged his transport. This was Bruce's final call before he was moved to isolation. He worried about 49 charges and the lack of bail. He mentioned a friend being held at the station without bond. He urged her to find the person responsible for the setup. He repeated his plea for someone to uncover the truth. He claimed everyone else had already stopped talking to him. In his world, there was no one left to trust. The conversation ended on a heavy, somber note. He worried her words to others might be dangerous or misunderstood. He feared she was acting without realizing the potential consequences. The guards informed him he was being moved to a cell. He promised to reach out from the inside if possible. The administrative intake process was finally complete. He was ordered to remove his shoelaces as a safety precaution. Any footwear with drawstrings had to be surrendered immediately. His belongings were sealed in a property bag outside the bars. He handed over his sweatshirt as required by the rules. The officer cited safety policy despite the suspect's confusion. His jacket and shoes were placed aside as he entered isolation. Investigators identified a discarded garment, pausing to examine the potential evidence. It lacked any cords. They found additional linens, offering one to provide some meager warmth. Proceeding forward, momentarily pausing. Affirmative. Placing the items precisely there would complete the protective layering. Wearing the coat was encouraged. Adding a quilt seemed equally appropriate. Indeed, maintain your position. Information would be sought and shared once the facts were clear. On December 23, 2021, Lynn District Court arraigned Bruce Mabin for significant theft, evidentiary interference, and hindering the legal process. No formal accusations linked him to Sherelle's death at that stage. Counsel argued the prosecution's case lacked substance, claiming zero proof existed for these specific assertions. Justice for Pringle became the community's singular, haunting refrain. Contempt lingered. She vanished before the holidays arrived. 44-year-old Bruce Mabin entered the courtroom, confronting the silent gaze of the victim's numerous grieving relatives. Lawyer John Morris fought to avoid this confrontation, citing potential bias in the witness recognition protocols. The prosecution's narrative appeared fragile and thinly supported. Despite the district attorney's suspicions of criminal violence, murder charges remained conspicuously absent from the docket. Mabin faced counts of grand larceny, evidence manipulation, and judicial interference. The Pringle family occupied nearly every seat within the legal chamber. 12 law enforcement officials stood guard, creating a tense perimeter inside. Though Mabin was detained for theft and concealing proof, he avoided charges for the actual killing. In the front row, the victim's mother wept, held by kin as the atmosphere reached a breaking point. Her pre-holiday disappearance fueled a palpable friction that bled into the public corridors. Mabin denied all guilt. The judge denied him release, while the family demanded retribution. Outside, kin clung together, haunted by the memory of finding her remains discarded near Route 107 on Tuesday. A sister's profound grief echoed in the void where her sibling once stood. Family members discovered her, remembering only the vibrant beauty she possessed. Words failed. She was beloved, and the demand for the perpetrator's punishment was absolute. Nothing more. Sealed arrest records obscured the investigation's specifics, though officials confirmed the death was undeniably criminal. Denying any lethal involvement, the defense maintained that the prosecution was building a house of cards. The state's evidentiary foundation appeared remarkably unstable. Pearl addressed the press post-arrest, insisting that the alleged crimes lacked any verifiable corroboration. Relief mingled with fear as she emphasized the necessity of keeping such a threat off the streets. A memorial service gathered a vast network of loved ones under a somber night sky. In Dorchester, nearly 200 citizens assembled to honor a life extinguished far too prematurely. Many lingered to offer final prayers for a soul violently snatched from their midst. Amidst the Dorchester silence, the collective adoration for Sherelle resonated with haunting clarity. Her constant joy and radiant smile defined her legacy. Mourners assembled near her childhood home, honoring the 40-year-old mother whose life was abruptly stolen. Amidst the communal affection, memories turned to the marshlands of Route 107 where her body lay. Investigators pursued a criminal lead, yet Mabin only faced charges for theft and impeding the probe. Details of her demise remained strictly under review. A gentle soul had met a fate she never merited. Her end was a senseless tragedy. Boston's trauma specialists arrived to navigate the family through their sudden, crushing loss. The massive gathering serves as a silent testament to the lives Cherelle Pringle touched. Friends remember her as a driven soul, a woman whose warmth and affection defined every room she entered. They vow to preserve her essence. Cherelle, a woman deeply cherished by an entire community. Her legacy of kindness will serve as the glue holding this fractured neighborhood together in her absence. Purple and white balloons drifted upward, carrying the final farewells of a grieving brother and a broken town. The reality of the horror remains impossible to process, leaving loved ones adrift in a sea of shock. 200 mourners gathered for the 40-year-old mother, whose remains were recovered by her own kin along Route 107. The brutality of her departure is a truth too dark for the mind to fully accept. While the crowd provided solace, Cherelle's brother took the podium, his voice heavy with the weight of her absence. He expressed deep gratitude for the outpouring of solidarity and love during their darkest hour. Friends who grew up alongside her struggled to reconcile the vibrant sister they knew with this grim reality. To call her unique felt inadequate. She possessed a rare spark that left an indelible mark on everyone. Beneath the sorrow of the vigil lay a simmering fury. The family, not the law, had found her. Tensions peaked when a police phalanx appeared at the hearing for Bruce Mabin, Cherelle's former partner. Critics noted the irony of the heavy police presence in court compared to the search for her body. Flickering candles represented their collective strength. The family pledged to surround Cherelle's teenage son with a village of men to guide his path forward. On December 29, 2021, the casket remained closed at Morningstar Baptist Church, a grim necessity of the violence she suffered. On January 4, 2022, Mabin appeared in the Lynn District Court for his scheduled proceedings. The atmosphere shifted as prosecutors formally linked him to the homicide of Cherelle Pringle. Mabin maintained his innocence before a grand jury moved the indictment to the Essex County Superior Court. Chilling details surfaced, specifically a text message Cherelle sent shortly before her disappearance. She had resolved to leave Mabin after he allegedly forced entry into her home and issued threats. This digital trail became central evidence, mapping the volatile breakdown of their relationship and a possible motive. For years, the gears of the legal system turned slowly toward a resolution. Through every delay, the family stood vigil in the courtroom, ensuring Cherelle's name was never silenced or forgotten. On November 3, 2025, the jury delivered a first-degree murder conviction against Bruce Mabin. 2 days later, Mabin returned to court to face the consequences of his actions. Before the gavel fell, the family confronted the man they described as a heartless coward. The victim's mother unleashed years of pent-up agony on the person who stole her daughter's future in 2021. Her words cut through the courtroom silence as the convicted killer awaited his final judgment. She declared that while he might escape earthly freedom, he could never outrun divine justice. Mabin hung his head as a mother's heartbreak filled the sterile room. The court finalized the first-degree murder sentence for the 40-year-old victim's death. Dressed in a simple blue shirt, Mabin listened as the family wished him a hellish eternity. Cherelle's brother spoke of the heavy mask of strength he wore for his mother and nephew. He confessed that while he appeared stoic, his private moments were consumed by a deluge of grief. He shielded his family from the depth of his internal devastation. Mabin was condemned to spend the rest of his natural life behind bars without the possibility of parole. The district attorney issued a formal statement following the conclusion of the trial. The office emphasized that this life sentence ensures full accountability for Mabin's monstrous and senseless violence. They expressed hope that this finality brings some measure of peace to Cherelle's enduring circle. The extensive probe involved state detectives and multiple local police departments across the region. Agencies from Lynn, Woburn, and Boston collaborated to piece together the tragic puzzle of her disappearance. Cherelle Pringle's life was cut short exactly 1 month before her 41st birthday. Her dream home remained unclaimed. The purchase was authorized only after her chair sat empty. These profiles analyzed psychological indicators, urging intervention before the window for survival closes. The dossier reopens in the next crime of passion. We thank you for your focus. Her memory remains an indelible fixture that the passage of time cannot erase. Her name endures, even as the justice system prepares for a final reckoning. The echo of a silent scream, a lesson in love and vigilance. The tragic story of Cherelle Pringle is more than a headline. It is a haunting reminder that the most dangerous monsters often hide behind the mask of love. Sherelle was a woman of ambition, light, and radiant joy, yet her life was extinguished by the very person who claimed to cherish her. This is the devastating reality of coercive control, a silent poison that turns a sanctuary into a prison. This story teaches us that love should never hurt, stalk, or silence you. When a relationship shifts from affection to obsession, when checking in becomes tracking location, and when boundaries are replaced by threats, the window for survival begins to close. We must learn to recognize these red flags, not just for ourselves, but for those we love. The Pringle family's unwavering devotion, finding Sherelle when the system failed, reminds us that community is our strongest shield. We must break the silence surrounding domestic violence. Let Sherelle's name be a beacon for change. Trust your intuition, protect your peace, and never let the light of a loved one be dimmed by the shadows of a predator. True justice isn't just found in a courtroom. It is found in the lives we save by refusing to look away.